Today I wanted to show you my compact Panasonic G7 little cinema rig that I built with a custom matte box. And I'm going to provide a list of everything that I've done here, including the custom matte box that you can build yourself. Stay tuned. So anybody that's ever had experience with a Panasonic G7, they know that it's a great little camera. It does 4K, does great quality 1080p, but it does have a few shortcomings. And I wanted to show this rig because it's a custom rig, and I figured out how to overcome some of those hurdles, as well as design a rig that was very compact, affordable as well. Okay, so to start out, you'll notice that I've got a rod system going on here, and I've got a top handle and a matte box. With my Panasonic G7s, I've got a pair of them. One is shooting this, the other one is here on the table. I've actually started to use these really great Canon FD lenses, the old film camera lenses, along with a speed booster. And what's great about these lenses is that they can let in a great amount of light to your sensor. So you can find lenses that are prime lenses that can go all the way to like f1.4. And so great image quality. Manual focus, but still, you know, even though you got to pull manual focus, it's actually some really great glass on these lenses. Great image quality. And the other thing I like about them is that they tend to give you a different look than the modern lenses that are made for the Lumix by Panasonic or other Micro Four Thirds lenses. They sort of give like a flat look that you would, I would say, are close to the look of shooting on film. And I really like that because it gives a little more, not flat look as far as flat color or flat dynamics, but just a flatter look to the image. Something about this glass, it's really cool. So anyway, I had picked up a bunch of those lenses off of Craigslist, a bag of them, enough for both lenses and a couple of speed boosters. And I lucked out because the guy had already assembled them and he was kind of giving up on using these lenses. Picked them up for like under 300 bucks. So anyway, the other thing that you'll notice is I've got a top handle. It's very common to add a handle, but I did not use a cage. I really don't like cages because, especially with this camera, as you'll notice, there's a lot of function buttons on here and I use all of them. And it just doesn't work well to have a cage that covers up all the buttons and the sides and so forth. But as many people know, one of the shortcomings of this camera is that the battery and SD card are positioned down here. The door to get to that, and you find that, you know, if you have anything mounted to the bottom of the camera, whether it's a tripod or quick release plate, gets blocked. So I came up with a solution for that. Now, looking on Amazon, you know, there's people that make offset plates. And so that's the first thing I did is I bought an offset plate that pushes your mounting off to one side to free up space for the battery door. But I added this other adapter on here, or this other plate, so that way I can mount my rods that support my matte box. And so when I need to change batteries or I need to put a new SD card in, I can slide this one rod up, and that gives me better access to my battery door. So I can, as I'm mounted, I can actually access the battery and access the SD card. Okay, so that slides in, making sure that I've got the adjustment there tighten up. Okay, so looking again at the bottom, I've got two different plates here. I've got mounted to that rod plate, I've got a Manfrotto style plate that goes to one of two of my different fluid head tripods. So if you notice, it's actually mounted here towards the back of the plate, but at the very front of the rod plate. So when that's mounted, I slide it into my tripod and it sits at the very back of the tripod. But that's a very sturdy mounting system, so that's really great. It just is rock solid. It works well. So the other way that I do this is I've got another mounting plate down here. It's a smaller quick release, and I'll show you why I have two plates there. It's to support this. So imagine that you're actually shooting on a fluid head tripod and you've got the shot that you want, and then you go, oh, quickly, let's do a different take, but let's do, instead of a fluid head tripod, let's try handheld. Well, that's where this comes in. This incorporates basically two pistol grips that are very inexpensive, a flash bracket, and I mounted the pistol grips, I threaded them right onto the flash bracket, used some liquid Loctite to secure those. So there's my grips. I've added a quick release plate that matches the secondary plate at the back of the underside of the camera. So pull it off the tripod, lock it on, you're ready to go. But I added some stabilization by using the Lumix strap that came with the camera, mounted that to the bottom of the pistol grip, and by holding that tight like this, I can add some stability when I want to do a handheld shot. So that's great because, you know, setting up a gimbal can be kind of a pain sometimes if you really just want to get a handheld shot and you don't mind a little bit of shake or just, you know, that handheld look without it being perfectly smooth. But getting that stability so that way you're not, you know, really shaky is great to have in a low budget kind of quick setup. So anyway, so that's the way that this works. So again, this is something that is easily taken off, put it back on the tripod, and you're ready to shoot again. So that's the system. The matte box itself, the way I've designed it, I've got on this side I have two levers. This one actually allows the matte box to travel forward and back. And what is great about that is that I can then slide it forward, swap lenses, and then slide it back. And I found that with these FD lenses, I could not find a matte box that was compact enough to fit this rig without looking kind of disproportionate, because, you know, you can buy these other matte boxes that are fairly inexpensive, but they're huge because they're made for full-size DSLRs. And none of my lenses that are FD lenses came with an actual lens hood, so I needed something to block the light, because these lenses, like this is the 28mm prime lens, it's gonna pick up a lot of lens glare, especially in bright sunlight. I'm actually having problems even indoors where window light is a key, or even a fill light. I'm getting some glare in there. But with the matte box, it's working great, not having a whole lot of issues with lens flares. So that's great. The other thing that is really cool about this is that it's really inexpensive. If you want to build one of these matte boxes, you can do so by downloading the template I provided. This is made out of Kydex. Kydex is a plastic that can also be formed with heat. And so it's rigid, it's pretty sturdy, it's tough. You can actually bend it if you heat it. And that's how I designed it, because the actual hinges on this are all made out of the same material. It's all made out of the same pieces to where they actually kind of bend together if you heat the pieces and follow the directions. The main part here, the baffle, actually bends a 90-degree angle and attaches to the rod system here. And that was done, again, by heating the plastic and bending it. And I don't have a heat gun. I basically just used a barbecue lighter, heated the section I wanted to make soft, bent it over the edge of a table to get a perfect right angle. Now, my first version of this actually was hand cut with a utility knife. Basically drew out the template, cut it with a utility knife, and it made a pretty decent matte box. It got me by. But I sent my drawing to a friend of mine who has a CNC machine. So if you know someone that has a CNC and can cut this for you, you can just give them the drawing and they'll know what to do with it. So I basically had this cut out with a CNC, so it's ultra, precise as far as the cuts are concerned. The cutout for the lens is perfect. And this cutout is actually going to work for FD lenses as well as Panasonic lenses. So if you want to use a matte box with Panasonic lenses, you can. So that's basically the rig. I find that this has been coming in a lot more handy, being that I've got the rig mounted with dual mounts. And the other G7 that I have shooting this right now, I kind of find that this overlaps. So I've got the need for handheld, I've got that covered. I got the need for, obviously, a fluid head tripod, I've got that covered. But let's say I need a gimbal, I need to mount the camera to a slider. Well, that's where the other camera comes in. I have the mounts specific for those items on that camera, so that I'm never having to really disassemble this camera unless I really have to, unless I have both sliders employed at the same time, or two gimbals employed at the same time, which is quite rare. So this is a great setup because the cameras are ultra affordable. You don't have to spend a ton of money to get the 4K quality if you want it. And I'm able to use this as a camera A, the other camera is sort of a camera B. And I can't show everything that I'm able to rig on this because I've actually got some of that on the camera right now, the one that's shooting this. But the other thing that I can do is I can add a microphone here, like a video mic. I can add a light. I can add different receivers for wireless microphones. I can mount an iPad so that I've got a larger monitor rather than the monitor here, but it also gives me you know, the control of bending the monitor up high. I can mount the monitor at the front, use it as a teleprompter. I've done that many times where the iPad is actually a teleprompter. Sits right up above the lens, and I can adjust it so that it's just right up at almost just slightly above eye level. So this is a really handy rig, and the best part is that the cost is really low. All these parts probably add up to less than $100. So I'll create a list, give you guys everything that you need if you want to build one of these. And the nice thing is that I think that even though the other Lumix, the GH4, GH5 cameras are a little bigger, I think the rod system would actually still work. The only thing that might be a little different is the angle where you bend this, but maybe with spacers, you could actually get this to work the same. I'm not sure of the distance between the bottom of the camera and the bottom of the lens on those cameras, but this should be something that you could adapt and make useful on a GH4, GH5. So anyway, thanks for watching. We're gonna do some more videos on the G7, so that way you guys have some samples to see of how we're using this in our productions, show you how we're using it on our sliders, on our gimbals, and give you some samples of maybe some of our favorite LUTs that we're using with it as well. Thanks for watching.